Hey everybody, Nick Espinosa, your chief security fanatic here, and today we are actually talking about some really interesting tech that started in 2019 but is continuously being honed, and that is an artificial intelligence that can reconstruct your face by only hearing your voice. And this is absolutely interesting and it's really fascinating. This is coming from Photography Magazine, at least that's what it looked like on their website. And here's what's going on. I did actually go to the researchers' website though, so this is legitimate. Here's what's up. AI, or artificial intelligence scientists at MIT's Computer Science and Artificial Intelligence Lab, known as CSAIL, have created an artificial intelligence that turns basically short snippets of audio speech recordings into a human face. Now, CSAIL researchers published a paper, as I mentioned, back in 2019, and it's an algorithm called, obviously, speech to face. Makes total sense, and I think the name says it all. Now, in the demo, you can basically take a look at how it works and what the results are. At the very top of the page, you'll hear audio snippets of different people speaking. Their real photo is there for reference, and then speech to face recreates their portrait based only on a 3-second recording of their voice. Now, interestingly enough, the artificial intelligence seems to be working better when audio clips are longer. I've got theories on that, though the article didn't elaborate. The researchers have shared some of these examples that have been recreated, meaning these example faces, from 3 seconds versus 6 seconds of speech. It's absolutely fascinating. You can actually go see this on CSAIL's GitHub. It's interesting. Now, of course, obviously these results, they're far from perfect, but they're still amazing and quote-unquote eerily accurate, according to the article here in Photography. Still, the artificial intelligence sometimes completely misses the point, mixes up gender, age, ethnicity, those kinds of things, and I saw some of those examples as well. Now, even though this algorithm was created for scientific purposes, obviously the question of privacy is a big one. Now, the MIT team claims that their method, quote, cannot recover the true identity of a person from their voice. As an example, recreate an exact image of their face. They wrote that though in their article in 2019, and honestly, as this improves, this is only going to get better. And some of the shots that they saw basically were, one was Daniel Craig. They took, obviously audio clips of Daniel Craig, aka James Bond, put it through this, and they came up with something that, quite frankly, looks about 80-85% like James Bond. Same with Phyllis Diller. She's an older comedian, and they actually redid her face. Some obviously were mismatches. So, for example, there was an Hispanic woman, and the algorithm thought that she was Asian, but very similar facial features and structures. And here's, I think, what's going on with this, in the sense that if you didn't know, the shape of your face also helps to dictate essentially how you speak. We have bones, in our jaw lines and, our ear canals and all of that help us interpret sound, actually generate the sound. So I sound different than you sound different from me. We can sound close, but our facial structure is part of that. And essentially those rhythms, those tones, I believe, is what the AI is picking up to recreate this. As AI learns, as AI gets essentially better at identifying or differentiating, let's say cheekbone structure A from cheekbone structure B, or however it's analyzing this, it's going to continue to hone this. And obviously, that's a huge problem, in the same way that we have a huge problem with facial recognition not being 100%. In a study from MIT, I used this actually in my third TED Talk, basically showed that something like a third, roughly, of all facial recognition hits are false positives. They ran all 535 members of Congress through an artificial intelligence database, basically 10,000 mugshots ran into the AI, and 27 members of Congress came up as criminals. There you go, insert your own joke there. But this is what we're talking about. So imagine, let's say somebody is behind a ski mask, walks into a bank, pulls out a gun and says, everybody's, stick them up. This is an armed robbery, blah, blah, blah. Talks for 20 seconds as, he's getting the tellers to unload all the money. And now we've got an AI that says, well, give me his audio, I'll recreate his face, and it looks like me, and I'm not the person that did it. Those are the things that we are talking about as we are developing these. I find this to be interesting, I find this to be fascinating, but I find this to be worrisome, especially when you're looking at governments and law enforcement that see these kinds of things, whether it's facial recognition or Clearview AI, which was my last video and podcast, and say, yeah, I'll take a slice of that because they believe it will aid them, only to end up with situations where people have spent extended times in prison over false identifications thanks to facial recognition and artificial intelligence. So this is obviously privacy concerning. We are not going to stop the expansion of artificial intelligence. That is an entire debate. I could spend an hour with an AI expert just going through that. But this, we have to understand, is one of those things that while it's cool, the practical use of this as it continues to hone may be simply that, and then the concern of false positives and all of the other privacy concerns with artificial intelligence, anything or databases that law enforcement basically have when they're using things like geofence warrants, meaning every image that walks into the bank is now on that video camera that's turned over to the police. Are they keeping that information? Just like geofence warrants, when Google says, yeah, we'll show you every Google subscriber that opened up Google Maps, or we can ping their cell phone in a certain area to find a potential culprit. These are the things we're talking about. So while this is interesting, this is also a bit terrifying, which is why I want to bring this up. But just by your voice, they're getting pretty accurate at recreating your face, and that is interesting and concerning for all. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at NickAESP, and please feel free to subscribe to me at YouTube as well. And as always, stay safe, stay online, and please stay private. Thanks, everyone.